Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy. This is the Stedemon / Vouking Knives G02. This is the G0203 model. The other colors have different numbers and whatnot. But anyways, first off, I want to thank my buddy Chris for sending this little guy along. He threw it in a package, wouldn't have got a chance to see one otherwise, so I appreciate that, Chris. Next thing, size comparison. This is actually not a small knife. Here it is against a steel wheel cut jack 3-inch Spyderco Delica. This is about 3.25 or so inches of blade here. And the Ontario Rat number 1 in D2 steel, and then another Chinese knife with a green handle. The Z Hunter, of course. So, there you go. Next thing, this is Vouking Knives, which is a brand I had never heard of, which is a sub-brand of Stedemon Knives, which is a brand I have barely heard of. I have not actually reviewed any Stedemons. The only one to cross my table is this little guy, which is a knife that absolutely falls shut, but unfortunately it also falls open, so it's too dangerous to review. Vouking is apparently a micro-brand within a micro-brand, which is slightly exhausting, but nonetheless, that is what Vouking is. They are a subdivision of the Stedemon or something along those lines. So anyways, let's go into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of this particular pocket knife here. On the good side, I do say I love the pivot collars. I love when makers do this. It's a little tiny detail, but it's a detail that can add a lot of expressiveness, and swapping those around can be pretty excellent. So seeing the copper there absolutely does add something to the design. And speaking of which, the design on this knife is actually pretty good. It's not straightforward to make a Scandi grind on the edge here look good on a folding knife. Very often it ends up looking awkward or strange, but here it looks pretty decent, so that's nice. And they've done that by having 3 different grinds effective. Well, okay, they've got a ricasso up here, they've got a flat grind, and the Scandi grind down at the bottom here. And there appears to be no micro bevel, which we'll come back to later on. But yeah, so I like the overall look of this, and coupled with some of the milling on the side here, the pivot collar, it's not an unattractive piece, 100%. Next thing, it is a front flipper knife. As you can see here, it's got this protrusion, which means that it is great in the pocket. It kind of hangs off to the side there. You can slide your hand past it, no problem. The edge is far enough away that you're safe. But at least pretty reasonably safe. Yeah, I'm safe. That's good. But anyways, it's a fine little system, and you have the 2 options for front flipping it. You can go laterally like that, or you can always take the vertical tack and kind of make it a 2-stage process. Either way, it opens well, and there you go. Next thing, this has a nice blade in some ways. Like I said, you've got that Scandi and the flat grind thing. You have some nice contrast with a black wash up here and then the machine finish down here. It is super thin behind the edge, which is really helpful if you're cutting something very, very flexible. Although, well, we'll talk about why that hung up later on there. But what this means is that if it is sharp and undamaged, it will slice very nicely in flexible materials. Then the steel on this is 12C27N, which is not a bad budget steel choice, although it's not necessarily the best steel ever either. Then finally, the price on this guy, if the knife is done well, $45 is a pretty solid price. And so I appreciate that they're aiming towards a more budget-friendly price point on this guy. To me, what is great about this knife is that it is very nice in the hand. This has great ergonomics. It really, because it's nice and big, and it's got this rounding on the scales here, this feels great. I mean, there aren't really strong hot spots here. They've positioned the clip well. And overall, I like this very much. The balance is right. It feels pretty great in the hand. So, ergonomically speaking, this is a very nice piece, and to me, that is what's great about it. On the bad side, first off, okay, guys, do we need another brand? If you are Stedemon, then damn it, just call yourself Stedemon. We don't need more Chinese micro brands to get confused by, guys. We're having enough trouble as it is. Calm it down. That's completely beside the point. Next thing, these scales, unfortunately, do not glow in the dark. This is just a Jade G10 sort of thing. I can put a flashlight on it and illuminate it very steadily, and nothing happens. That's a little bit of a disappointment, because most people are familiar with this color as glow-in-the-dark, and this is not. It's just G10 that happens to look like it's glow-in-the-dark, but isn't. I'm not a big fan of this color, in case you're not aware, but that's not really a bad problem with the knife here. Next thing, although this does have a Scandi grind at the very edge, it thickens up pretty quickly. It gets to this flat grind pretty abruptly. And what this means is that although it cuts great for the first, like, quarter inch of whatever it is that you're cutting, it'll bind up on thicker portions of the blade. So as I was testing this guy on some cardboard, I found myself very regularly like, oh, this is going to cut great. Oh, never mind. And then it kind of stops and binds because the blade stock is actually reasonably thick. It's not a terrible grind, but it thickens up. I mean, what they've got here effectively is a knife that is pretty thick behind the edge, just with a super wide V-bevel, which is kind of the definition of a Scandi, I suppose. But still, it's not actually as much of a cutting beast as I had hoped. And compared to a knife like, for instance, the Spyderco Nelaka, which had that full, that entire blade was ground on that same line, this is not quite the slicing beast that I'd kind of hoped it would be, given that Scandi there. So there you go. Next thing, this has a frighteningly early lockup. What I mean by that is, take a look at that. That's like 5%. And it's variable. If you put like a lot of wrist into it, you can get it to lock up maybe 7%. And if you happen to have a very light lockup, it's not good. And so this lockup is honestly scary to me. If the entire lock bar isn't even on the blade, yowza. I've not had it actually fail in the lock, but it's certainly not reassuring to me. And then finally, the action on this guy is not good. There is a lot of grit to it here. Let's see if you can hear it. It's just, it's gritty, it's nasty, it's unfortunate, and that's after a full disassembly and clean out. It doesn't feel really good. And so, to me at least, those are the bad things, is the action just isn't very impressive. The lockup on it is pretty frighteningly early. It thickens up pretty quickly behind the edge there. The scales on it don't glow in the dark, even though it looks like it should, and they've decided that we need yet another brand for low-end Chinese knives. Thank you very much, Stedemon. On the ugly side, couple of issues. First off, there is pretty unpleasant access to the lock bar here. What I mean by that is that the lock bar has zero cutout or anything like that. So to unlock this knife, you are jamming your finger into this space and hoping that the pressure on this side of the bar is greater than the pressure on this side of the bar and that the lock bar moves over eventually. I mean, given it's kind of nice that the lock bar barely engages at all because that gives you more space, but still, it needs a lock bar access cutout just desperately. Yeah, it could affect the ergonomics, but damn it, guys, this is bad. Next thing, as you saw during the disassembly, this has an internal stop pin, but that internal stop pin is loose. You can see here I can move it around here, and that's part of the reason that the action is particularly unpleasant. If it's scraping along one side or another of the G10, you're going to feel that the entire way. You could probably like JB weld that in the middle there or something just to make sure it doesn't do that. But guys, come on, that is so lazy. It's probably not going to fall out because, as you can see, the worst it's exposed is like right there, and that's not enough. But still, that is such a cut corner, it's not even funny. And then finally, the worst part about this is that the edge is just stupidly fragile. Let me see if I can show this off here. This knife, there we go. If we look along the edge here, you can see this little constellation of white spots. Every one of those spots is a little tiny slice here. Let's see if I can get this to zoom to the edge level, the focus that is. Every one of these little white spots is a little bend or crack or break in that edge. This is not good. And I'm not doing, high-speed, low-drag, hard-use kind of stuff with this knife. Edge damage, in fact, is just stupidly easy on this knife. Turns out that, like, cutting cardboard is just way too big an ask for this edge. It came to me damaged from basic cardboard cutting, and I damaged it further, doing basic cardboard cutting, just like not with staples, not just like putting the blade into the cardboard and pressing through is enough to damage the edge. That's not good. I am all for a specialized, very super slicey grind, but you have to do better than this. This is not a hard task that I am asking a knife to do, and I've had other knives with this kind of a grind that survived it very, very easily, but this one did not. I don't know whether it's an issue with this particular grind, with this particular steel. I don't know what the issue is here, but the edge on this is just stupidly fragile. And because it's a Scandi, it's a little bit of a pain in the neck to resharpen and everything. Just no. Maybe they just blew the heat treat out on the edge. I don't know. But whatever is wrong with this thing, the edge is just really not reliable. And so as a result, the knife, although it's stupidly sharp at the edge, I mean, you can hear all of that grab, as each one of those little bits of damage and bending goes by. That's not good. They have to do better than that. So to me, that's the ugly. The edge is stupidly fragile. The stop pin is loose for some stupid reason. And the lock bar access is just not good because there's no access cutout, which is pretty ugly. So final conclusion on this guy, this is a nice idea. I mean, a Scandi ground folder with solid ergonomics is good. And it is very nice in some aspects. And it's at a decent enough price point if they were making good work. If this were a great knife, $45 would be pretty solid for it. The thing is, it is pretty abundantly clear that they just didn't give that much of a crap here. With the action being as it is, with the nasty stop pin movement, with the poor unlocking, and an edge or steel or something that is just super freaking fragile and easy to damage, all on a knife that is higher priced than some gems, I mean, do not pay this much money. Do not pay more than this for this. Do not pay more than this for this. Do not pay more than this for this. No, it is a... no. Oh, no, no. And so all of these things add up to me to be, junk. It could be that I just happen to have a bad edge or something, but the stop pin is inexplicable. Or maybe just the stop pin should be free, or shouldn't be free, but I just have a bad edge. But no, this is just bad. And all of these things combined mean that at some point in time, somebody has to have realized that they made a bad knife. Somebody has to have thought, just ship it. Someone will buy it. And the thing is, with a small brand like this, with Vouking knives, if they're willing to ship this, well, they're willing to ship anything. If they're willing to ship this, they're willing to ship anything. And so they're just not ready to be trusted. So this is my very first and my very last Vouking knives review. And given my prior experience with Stedemon, well, it's my last Stedemon review too. I'm done with this. I mean, maybe that's not fair. Maybe they've got hidden gems. Maybe. But the thing is, let me know in the comments if you had a great experience. Maybe this is just an exception here, but there are 11 billion emerging Chinese-made brands to try, and I don't have the time to address all of them. So one of them rushes forth like this, loudly and proudly proclaiming that they just don't give a crap, I'm going to take their word for it and move on. So I do appreciate them stepping outside the box with this design, with these ergonomics, and with the willingness to use a relatively thinly ground edge here. But I wish that they had stepped outside the box well. And the result here is a knife that, well, I found pretty Vouking and impressive, and I just cannot Vouking recommend. Anyways, hope this has been interesting to you. Have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now. But wait, it gets better. Because you see, after I posted a picture of this knife to the Instagram, and later on, after I had filmed this review, get a message from John Gray, the well-known knife maker. John Gray says, Nick, you got to check out this picture from my Instagram, shares it with me. It is a picture of a Sinkovich custom knife that I'm going to go on ahead and put on the screen here. Turns out that this particular piece of crap knife here is also a design homage to Sinkovich. So, the best part about it, the ergonomics that is, as well as the attractiveness of it, are basically somebody else's design. That's really, 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 really ugly, and here for and forever, Stedemon, as well as this Vouking, as well as their higher-end brands, are banned. I'm done. I'm over with this crap. So, anyways, it just gets ugly. I hope this has been interesting to you. Sorry for the late breaking edition. Have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.